Hi YouTube, I'm Dr. Yoki.
And I'm Dr. Lou.
Welcome to our channel. First and foremost, subscribe, hit the notification bell to make sure you don't miss out on any of our content. Today we'll be talking about how to get into medical school. We got accepted to Ivy League medical schools and we're going to share with you today exactly how we did that. So stay tuned for tips.
Our applications were primarily to allopathic med schools. We're going to be focusing this video primarily on that. However, most of the tips that we'll be giving you can be applicable for anybody who's applying to allopathic, osteopathic, or even Caribbean schools in some instances. So there's 5 key things you really need to keep in mind when you're applying to medical school. Your GPA, your MCAT, your letters of recommendation, your extracurriculars, and finally, and possibly most importantly, your personal statement. So starting off with the GPA. Your GPA will usually be broken down on your application into 2 ways, your total GPA and your science GPA. The total GPA is exactly that, the cumulative GPA across all of your courses. Your science GPA consists of all of your courses that fall under the category of sciences. So that's your biostats courses, that's your chemistry courses, that's your organic chemistry courses, whatever it may be, as long as it falls under the category of sciences according to the AAMC. All our courses are required when you're applying to medical school. You need 2 semesters of each of the following courses: chemistry, organic chemistry, biology, physics, social sciences, and math. One thing that will help you throughout this whole process is the MSAR, the Medical School Admissions Requirements booklet. In it, you can see the requirements for each and every medical school in the United States, including the breakdown for average GPA of the accepted student and average MCAT for the accepted student. So refer to that book to give you a better idea as to what courses you'll need for each specific school you're interested in applying to.
So there's no absolute cutoff for the requirements for the total GPA and the science GPA, but we do have some average numbers that are published. Last year, the average science GPA for accepted medical students was 3.66. The average total GPA for accepted medical students last year was 3.73. Now keep in mind, these are just averages. Some people score above and some people score below. So the AMC also gives us a standard deviation. And using that, we found that 68% of those accepted into medical school had a science GPA between 3.36 and 3.96. So that's a big range. And for the overall GPA, the range for 68% of those accepted into medical school was 3.49 to 3.97.
We took a similar approach for the MCAT too. We found that the average MCAT for students who were accepted into medical school in 2020 was 511.5. Using the standard deviation, we found that the range was between 505 to 518. 70% of students had an MCAT within that range. So with regards to extracurriculars, there's 3 things you should keep in mind. Quality over quantity, don't lie, and don't do things that really don't interest you. With regards to quality over quantity, you want to try and do extracurriculars that show that you know why you're getting into medicine. And it's important also to do activities that you're interested in. If you're doing activities that you're not at all interested in or have no passion for, it's going to come out in your interviews.
Aside from clinically relevant extracurriculars, you can also add other things to your application that give the admissions committee an idea of who you are. Things like hobbies, sports, leadership positions, research, other volunteering. These are also really important to include in your application. The required number of recommendations that you need can vary by school to school, but I think a safe number is about 3 letters of recommendation. It's important to ask people who know you really well to write a letter of recommendation on your behalf. And if you've done research, it's really important to ask your supervisor or private investigator for a letter of recommendation as well, because if you don't have one, admissions committees are going to wonder whether your contribution was really significant enough for someone to write a letter of recommendation for you. So it's important to have one.
And finally, but possibly most importantly, it's your personal statement. Here's where you really get the chance to sell yourself. Oftentimes, it's really the only point where some committees get a chance to even look at your application. If your personal statement is one that really sells who you are, that explains why you want to be a doctor, how you got to that point, and what your plans are to be after you are a doctor, then that's going to really pull them in to look into the rest of your application. So if you write a stellar personal statement, that'll really get your foot in the door very quickly.
Now we have some general tips to share with you when you're applying to medical school. The first is, if you qualify, we highly recommend that you do the fee assistance program. The fee assistance program is geared towards low-income students, and it provides 20 medical school applications for free, and you also get some free MCAT preparation materials along with this. The second major tip that we have is that for secondary applications or secondary essays, it's important to get those done early. One way that you can do this is to look up online to see if the prompts for those specific schools have been released, so that you can work on the application before you even receive it. Third, we really recommend that you have people review your personal statement. You should have at least one person in the medical field review your personal statement to make sure that you're addressing the fundamental question: why do you want to become a doctor and why medicine? We also recommend that you submit your application early, preferably within the first few weeks of application opening. This is because interviews can fill up very quickly, and you want to be able to get one of those spots.
The last general tip is that you should try and apply broadly. Don't try to make your list focus primarily on quote-unquote top-tier schools, or don't focus it too much on schools that are relatively safe for you. Have a wide variety of schools in your application. That way, you give yourself the best possible chance to try and get into a medical school in the United States.
And how to do that specifically? Well, we really recommend that you purchase the MSAR, or the Medical Student Admissions Requirement. There, you'll be able to see the average MCAT and GPA of all the medical schools in the US and Canada. So for my specific application, I took the old MCAT and I scored a 29, which translates to about a 507 for the new MCAT. My overall GPA was a 3.6, and my science GPA was a 3.48. And I know what you're thinking, these aren't stellar scores, but I think there were other parts of my application that really made up for that. So first, I participated in a pre-med program during college. This program was geared toward disadvantaged and low-income students. The point of this program was really to help prepare students for health careers, in particular medicine. As a part of it, I took an MCAT preparation course, I was paired with a mentor, I took some science courses, and I had a lot of guidance and a lot of mentors as part of it. I think that this program really helped me not only to better understand the medical school application process, but also helped me build some skills so that I can succeed in medical school. Secondly, I took 2 gap years to work as a research assistant at a major academic institution. And that research was focused on transplant rejection. I think this really helped my application as well because it was an added skill that I wasn't able to develop in college. I learned how to gather, analyze, and interpret scientific data, which is obviously something that medical schools really like to see. Third, I was very engaged with my community. I participated in a lot of volunteering activities within my community. I volunteered in public school, I held leadership positions in college, I also volunteered at a hospital, and I think all of these things really showed that I was committed to patient care, I was committed to my community. And lastly, what I think was the most important, compelling reason why I got into medical school was my story and my motivation for becoming a doctor. I grew up in a low-income, low-resource community, and I witnessed firsthand the impact that things like income, race, and even language can have on a community's health. This is called health disparities. And I wanted to become a doctor to help mitigate those health disparities. And I wanted to also practice in communities where that was prevalent. And it's important to note that I wasn't all taught. I showed my motivation for going to medical school by participating in a lot of activities, engaging with my community. Essentially, I proved that this was my passion.
So both Yoki and I were pretty non-traditional students. I may have been slightly even more non-traditional given the approach that I ended up taking. But just a brief recap. From the old MCAT, I had a 33, which today translates to about a 514, 515. For my GPA, I had a cumulative GPA of about 3.34, and my science GPA was about 3.4. So overall, my absolute numbers weren't great either. My MCAT was pretty good, but my GPA definitely had some work to be done. However, where I think I really was able to shine was in my extracurriculars and my personal statement. So going over my extracurriculars, the biggest aspect of my extracurriculars were, 1, I had been trained as an EMT and worked as an EMT while I was in college. And 2, I had extensive amounts of research on my application. So I had started doing research as early as high school. By the time I reached my senior year in college, I went to my committee and they told me that there was still quite a bit of work left to be done. So I opted to take quite a few gap years. I was out of college for about 3 years working as a research technician, And during that time, I was able to learn quite a bit about research. I learned about research design. I learned various different methods for carrying out various analyses, such as Western blot, PCR, immunofluorescence staining, things like that. And I also was able to really get a chance to work closely with both my PI and my supervisor, who were both able to write stellar letters of recommendation for me. So finally, at the end of it, when I went back to the committee and they saw that I had all this research, that I had all this clinical experience, that really helped to bolster my overall application and to show that I had both the empathy to be a doctor as well as the capability through my research to critically think, and finally through my hospital activities, my understanding of what it takes to be a physician. So what I did with my personal statement is essentially crafted in such a way that I was able to demonstrate how all of these experiences enabled me to understand what it meant to be a physician, why I wanted to be a physician, and what my ideal plans were for being a physician. I put all of that together and I crafted a story that reflected what my experience was and why that qualified me to go to medical school. Obviously, Yoki and I took very different approaches to how to get into medical school. There's no one-size-fits-all approach. Everybody has their own way of getting into medical school. But the point is, as long as you have an overall balanced application, you have a good shot at medical school.
Pretty much the one hard and fast rule that we think would make you a really strong applicant to medical school is to make sure you have a compelling story for why you want to become a doctor, and to really give the admissions committee an idea of who you are, prove to them that you deserve that interview day. Thanks for watching our video. If you enjoyed this, please hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell to make sure you don't miss out on any new content that we put out.